Most things that we value in society are the illusion. We don't actually value the hard work or the authentic, real version of what we're aspiring for. We aspire for things that look like the real versions of what we want. As far as you could go down the list. As far as let's just say that a society is a study in planned obsolescence. It's a brown and serve society. It is a microwave society. Love is treated as a expendable commodity. Your entertainment is an expendable commodity. People don't even put together complete thoughts as far as albums. Albums don't exist anymore. Now it's just a collection of songs. Love doesn't exist in the way that we understood it. It's simply a series of transactions and interactions that may or may not be on TV, on a reality show. Now, the problem with a mirage of something real is that mirages are kind of like three-legged tables. They don't support anything. You can't build anything off the back of a mirage because it's simply just a hologram. And what's happening with society today is a reflection of when the image becomes more important than the subject that image is based on. You put more time into looking like something instead of being something. And let's look at what we say in society. If you get mad at your girlfriend or your boyfriend at a social gathering, you pull them you kind of tug on their shirt and you whisper in their ear, "Hey, I need you to act right." We never say, "I need you to be right." If society really were focused on change, then we would demand that people be right as opposed to act right, as we know what acting is. Acting is taking on a role that may not even be that person. It may not even be real. So we place a lot of stock on things that are not even designed to support the weight of the truth. And that in itself is pretty scary, if you think about it. When you get down to the nuts and bolts of things, we're wanting certain outcomes without doing the work, but we want to look like we're working. I've never seen a bigger generation of people that are running in place, and they're running hard, they're running fast, they're furious with what they do, but they're not making any forward progress. Versus the man that casually walks from point A to point B. The people that I'm talking about, they've run really hard in place at point A. And because of that, their whole idea is, I'm putting in the work. I'm earning my stripes. No, what you're doing is you're running in place and mimicking actual effort. Actual effort doesn't have to be something that's mind-numbingly difficult. It's a series as a progression towards a particular goal, which society has no goal. They have a perpetuation of the argument. That's all they have. We are resigned to argue about things rather than fix things, which is very scary because the rest of the world doesn't necessarily operate off of that. And our country, in its folly and its self-absorbed narcissism, has decided that everybody across the world thinks like us. Everybody across the world is lazy in the same way that we are. They're dedicated to other things in the same way that we are, and that's simply not true. We spend an enormous amount of time dealing with subjective realities, things that are unequivocally not true that we're trying to fit into the realm of true. We're trying to negotiate the truth with a subjective, interpretive, to be interpreted type truth. You can't do that. You cannot apply the same principles, if you're dealing with matter, that you would on antimatter. They're not the same thing. But that's what we want to do. When we make certain decisions, we want to do so without those consequences, and that's what's really not being said. And if you are a truther and you call that out, what generally happens to you is that you disappear over time. You end up at the back of the pack. You end up shadow banned. And it's funny to me that all these things are happening. All these things are converging. And the only thing that we can think to do is blame somebody that isn't even in office. It's happening real time. Whether it's the candidate that you want, the candidate that you don't want, we're in love with the illusion of even political affiliation. If I'm a conservative, I'm okay, regardless of what I do. If I'm a liberal, I'm okay, regardless of what I do. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. When you take a society and you develop it over time to where it generationally becomes more interested in the look, tone, and public persona of a candidate as opposed to the actual policy of a candidate, you're creating a society that's ready to fall and fold and take its ball home and give way to a new regime. And what that regime is, I don't know. There's a lot of whispers and conspiracy theorists talking about, well, China's just primed to take us over. That's why our president is so reluctant to take to open opposition of China. It could be a lot of things, and I'm not going to speculate on that because I don't have any actual proof, and I like dealing with actual, evidence when I talk about something. But if we become any more disconnected from reality, we are going to fall much in the same way as a jester balancing on a 2 or 3-legged table. That's undisputable. What is disputable, I suppose, is the manner in which we rectify all of these problematic scenarios. There are some people that want to take everybody into consideration. I'm not one of those people. I don't believe that you can take a person whose absolute religion is subjective truth and place them responsibly in a position to where you have to make practical decisions that affect real life stuff, not subjective stuff. As much as I would love it to be a level playing field in that area, it absolutely is not. You need a table with 4 legs. That's not something that should be disputed. Yet here we are disputing the strength and value of a 4-legged table versus a 3-legged or 2-legged table. The saying that it just depends on how you look at it is absolutely, utterly inaccurate. You can look at it as many ways as you want. When the smoke clears, it equals a 3-legged table equals probably somebody on the floor. Our society really isn't ready to inherit the consequences of everything it's asking either. Everything from gender equality to racial equality, we don't really understand the truth as to what that looks like. Equality, to be perfectly honest, is quite boring. If you think about it, we consider you in the same way. You have to stand your place in line. If you were the 5th person in line, then you will end as the 5th person in line once you get to the front of the line. You will be the 5th person to be served your popcorn. That's equality. Privilege is when you are 32nd in the back and you move up to position number 3 by sake of who you are, by your color, by your gender, by your religion. Folks, that's what's called a privilege. And privilege tastes so much more delectable, so much better than actual equality. The mundaneness of equality is such that is, if you have it, you don't even realize that you have it. It's kind of like the can opener. How many times a day do you think about the can opener? You don't. But once the can opener is missing and you need to open a can, if it's got one of those handles on it where you can open a bottle of wine, when you can't find it, that's when it becomes relevant again. Otherwise, it just kind of sits in the pocket. Folks, that's what equality looks like. So if we get down to the nitty-gritty of humanity and the surrounding mirages and what we really want, I think it's safe to say this, and I could be wrong and I hope to be wrong. Most of human nature dictates that people aren't interested in righting a wrong. They're interested in decimating the facilitator of that which inflicted the wrong, which means it's now vengeance. What are you supposed to do with that, especially when you were not around for the egregious crimes that were committed? What exactly are you supposed to do? And I ask that it's no mystery. I'm talking around labels like black, white, or whatever, but it really is a question for white America. What do you do? Scott Adams pissed a lot of people off because of the crassness of what he said. But then you have to examine certain things. If you're unable to do anything, and the mirage is, if we work towards this goal of equality and inclusion, then we'll have the outcome that we want. The truth of the matter is this: one mirage supplants another mirage. The matriarchy, or the patriarchy rather, will be replaced by the matriarchy, and they will discriminate against somebody. A racial hierarchy, a racial new denomination will simply repeat what the past one did. The bottom line is, in the middle of all these mirages of things that look like what they're wanting, is tyranny. And tyranny in any form, people should distill it. People should look at it and recognize it for the characteristics that it possesses. Tyranny is in the form of the oppression of one group, the exclusion of another group, and the utter hatred and disconnect from another. We don't recognize tyranny when it's happening to somebody that doesn't look like us or think like us. That level of human connection is gone, and it will be the death of us.